What's good with the YouTube? You already know, Big Flocka with a convict's perspective, and I'm gonna smash, dash, and slide on through with a little bit of energy. Please hit the like, subscribe, comment, do all those things to help support this channel, and hit that bell notification for future fire content. And as you can tell by the title and thumbnail, right, we're gonna discuss a recent crime where some individuals just pled guilty to. They're scheduled for sentencing pretty soon, and it's in a small town called Sonora in California, right? And what ended up happening, right, is allegedly the four suspects are Norteño gang members. Whether active or not, I'm not too sure. But the article that I read earlier on one of the articles I was researching said that they were active Norteños. 3 of them in prison. 2 were in Pleasant Valley. 1, I think, is in North Kern or one of those prisons down in Delano, right? And, pretty much they got, transpacked out to a county called Tuolumne County, which is kind of by Stanlis County. Now, the suspects are from Stanlis County, which is like Modesto, Ceres, and whatnot, right? But there's a lot of small counties that are surrounding that area where the population is very low, right? The crime is there, but it's just on a whole different type of level. I mean, we're talking small population towns where people from the outskirts that are from big cities go in there and they pretty much splurge as far as in activities to generate income because there's nobody really out there in these communities. Now, the reasons why I'm discussing this story is the details behind it. Now, the alleged victim, right, of a robbery was an 82-year-old woman and her daughter. Now, that's what I'm trying to raise the questions is that back when I was doing my thing, right, the operations for the regiment, it would be very rare that we would ever bring any type of heat or attention to the home of where there was women or whatnot, regardless of the income, unless that woman was in the life, then it'd be a whole different ball game. You know what I'm saying? I felt bad one time when I sent some homeboys on a mission to get these dudes that were from out of town that were, pushing some yeska out there in my city. We had the rundown. We had the inside information, someone that was going inside there, and there was not supposed to be no women in there or dogs. So we did this on a Halloween. I believe it was 2005, I believe. I sent 3 homeboys to go take care of this holiday. And when they went through the garage. The garage was open. And in the process of going in there, first of all, there ended up being dogs in the house. But second of all, there ended up being a mom in the house, right? Which, the homeboy on instinct kind of turned around and he had his piece on him, you know what I mean? They ended up aborting mission because the details that we had for the lick were not there, right? But in any case, those are the type of things that you may come across when you're out there doing your thing. And see, we never, ever would try to do any type of lick where there was kids in the house or where there was, women that were not in the mix or even someone's parents. You know what I'm saying? I get it. Sometimes people can be considered what you call collateral damage. But at the same time, the image that you have in public or the perception of how people view you, if you start doing crimes where there's innocent women and children and whatnot, it's a bad look. And with this case, this woman was not with the life, right? The reasons why this robbery allegedly happened, right, was that there was one of these suspects allegedly worked for a moving company that had helped this woman when she was moving. Therefore, they had the floor plans basically of the house, the locations of the safe and whatnot, and had all the details. And then looking at that, she was older, in her 80s, living on her own. Now, allegedly, the crime ended up producing over $100,000 in value of cash and jewelry and whatnot. And see, that's where I'm going to raise this question in this discussion. Even if the lick is a ton of money, right, I have a hard time justifying and looking at these individuals that they did the right thing and robbing an innocent fucking helpless woman. To me, that's almost like a cowardice act. I think, I used to think that being a part of organizational business that we still try to have a moral compass as convicts and try not to prey upon like innocent women or people who are not in the mix. Yeah, that's a lot of money that's on the table and that will change people. Over $100,000. Me personally, I couldn't personally sanction it or be involved in it. I think back to the Goshen massacre with a 10-month-old baby and 16-year-old girl, and even the old people that were in that house. I think back to the Modesto incident that happened where, some underage people were shot or those that were barely 18 or innocent were shot. And this crime like this, man, these guys basically, tied up some women, made threats to hurt them if they didn't tell them where the safe and the basically the information that they wanted was at, man. And where do we draw the line? Where do we draw the line where they're convicts with moral compasses and whatnot? Like, I don't see no honor or integrity in doing a lick on an 82-year-old innocent woman. Now, the alleged suspects in this case they're from Stanlis County. You have Gabriel Ray Cordero, who's 22, Ricky Isaiah Alua, Jonathan Brian Backman, and Manuel Raymond Jr., all like 20, 27, and 22, man. They've been charged. Now, apparently, they've all took a package deal, all four of these individuals. Three of them are already in prison custody. Only one was out of custody. And my question is this type of crime, right? In a lot of eyes, I look at it, it doesn't amount to the same thing as far as those heinous or hideous crimes that happen, like where people assault one, right? Sexually, right? You can't sit there and say it amounts to a crime like that, or towards minors or whatnot. But just the act of violence towards an elderly woman, or any woman in general, is always going to be frowned upon. An act of violence, if they were underage, is going to be looked frowned upon. And I look at the elderly the same way I look at if they're underage, man. A lot of times they can't even fight for themselves. An 82-year-old woman, man. You know what I'm saying? And plus the other woman. Just think of the horrors and the PTSD that she probably has due to this incident, and she's living out her last leg of life right now. You know what I'm saying? And I question, is this just how I feel about the crime, or is this how the main consensus? What would happen if this came across, you know what I'm saying, like in a prison report, as far as within the homeboys? How would this issue be dealt with? Because in all my years of being active, I really didn't see crimes that happened like this. And if you did, it usually was something that was personal, like, a family member or whatnot. And there was always some type of area that kind of almost didn't justify it, but made sense why it may have happened. Was this lick sanctioned by a higher authority or by anybody that was running the streets or the regiment at that time? That's another question I have. You know what I'm saying? Which I kind of doubt it. But then the things that I've seen over like the last year or 2 years of doing YouTube, nothing ever surprises me about the decisions people make or the decisions they make for money. Nowadays, people don't look at like the underlying factors. They only look at the come up. They don't look at, okay, this is an old lady, man. What are the homies going to say about us doing this? They don't look at it, this is a crime towards an innocent civilian. What are the homies going to think about that? People got to put all that and take all that into account, because, like I said, this is the type of crime, man. Like, if I was still active, man, I would at least have these dudes on freeze, man, pending an investigation, because I can't support their acts, man. To me, it's a cowardice act to even do any crime towards an elderly woman. People may ask questions. Well, what about when the NF, knocked out, Crystal Morado and other such, issues that had happened back in the days? My answer to that was they were involved in the mix. See, if you involve yourself in the mix as a woman, get money crossed up, end up crossing somebody up or whatever it is, to the extent of how you involve yourself, right? You're going to have to answer that the same way any man would have to if they were out there in the mix and they started to intervene in fucking NF functions or any of these organization functions. Look what happened with the AB case when the woman ran off and spent the money that wasn't hers. You know what I'm saying? You're going to have to pay the piper. But those were those that involved themselves in that lifestyle or allowed that lifestyle to involve them in it. See, it's way different than someone who's just minding their business, orders a service to come help. They look at the floor plans. They find out that it's two women that are living at this house. One of them is an elderly woman, right? So you figure the daughter's probably elderly as well. So basically you have two senior citizens that are the victims of crimes from young gang members. That's not a good fucking look by any means. Granted, it may not be as good as the Maxim murders or the Goshen massacre incident or whatnot, but it still isn't a good look on the gang as a whole. And whether these guys are active or inactive, that's not the point, because even those that are not active should know right from wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, the article says that they were active Nortenos. The crime happened in 2021 between the hours of 11 and 12. And they barely get into to basically booking these individuals now because of COVID-19 had a lot of these cases backlogged. And they knew who the suspects were, but they were investigating this case further from what I read. Now these suspects already pled guilty and took pleas, so that's almost like an admission of guilt in some senses. What's going to happen now? Well, I think any higher authority, any carnal is going to want to investigate this and probe further. And I think that there could be consequences. There could be, technically in my old way of thinking, Yastuval, but nowadays things have changed because of their ages. That may salvage their career, number one. Number two, that could make them useful for when, Pegada needs to go down or someone has to be removed. They're going to be the one that's going to be sent on that mission. And number three, they're going to have to pay a little bit of something. I guarantee that. Whether they pay or if they have to be on frontline status, whatever it may be, there's going to be some consequences. Now, there's still going to be the issue, was this ever sanctioned by a higher authority out there in the streets that was running a crew or was under a crew or whatnot? Those are the answers that only these individuals know. See, there's some cases where you look at they're young in their careers and whatnot, and, maybe they were misled. But even if you're young in your career, right from wrong. Attacking an 80-year-old woman is not a good look by the fellas once you get locked up, right? That there may be consequences from that. The only thing that could be a saving grace, as far as if I was making a decision, would be where they sent on this mission by a higher authority out there in the streets. Therefore, that would fall back on him. Because all they're doing is responsible obedience, acknowledging the channel that gave them the directives. But there's nothing that has proven or indicates that this was something that was set up by a regiment or a crew out there on the streets. And, it makes me raise that question. Have things changed to the extent that money comes before, before integrity? Without including myself, I kind of have the answer. Look what, in past situations of what I went through, money was put forth before the right thing. There's an old saying before, right is right, wrong is wrong. And that's what the old code of convict went by. That's what these organizations used to go by. You know what? Yastuvo, you fucked up. You know what I'm saying? You don't attack elderly women. That's no longer the mindset nowadays. I don't know where they decided to, abandon that. But that's currently what you're experiencing and witnessing in a lot of crimes that you're seeing all across the nation, man. Anyways, this is Flacco from a convict's perspective. This is just my opinion. This is just my perspective, man. Like I said, there's still probably more details I don't know, but this is just having a brief little account of what happened and what my opinion is. With that said, I'm gone.